Hey everyone, it's BDevine, and thank you to all of you for tuning in here for part 2 of Pluto Returns USA 2022. And this is going to be a little bit more information. So if you haven't watched part 1, it's still okay. You're going to be able to understand what's going on with part 2. And I want to help other countries understand what this means for them. We can see that Australia is really going through it right now, constantly locked down and constantly forced to do things they don't want to do. The people are just all over the place. The fear is everywhere because of the psychological warfare that's been going on. Now, the reason why I'm talking about the United States is, one, because I live here now, and two, because whatever happens here, this is the superpower of the world. Whatever happens here has a history of affecting everywhere else. For example, if the government is completely changed, okay, so just say that we completely disassemble the current democratic government, okay, and anyone who's actually involved in politics, and we decide to have a clean, fresh start. What will happen from that is obviously from the fallout, from people scrambling, from people suddenly becoming whistleblowers or whatever happens, this will affect all other leaders around the globe. Now, if you're a leader of light, you got nothing to worry about. But if for some reason, or whatever reason you've done it, you've been very dark, or you've been on some kind of instruction from some darker energy, if you've been corrupt in any way, if you've been taking money and from pharmaceutical companies, for example, if you've been taking money from them to push something on the people, it's coming out. And we saw this happen with Sydney's premier just recently, just last month, having to resign over money and getting money from pharmaceutical companies and to push their agenda. Anyone with an agenda is going to be unearthed. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to come without a fight. And that doesn't mean that everyone's going to go, okay, that's fantastic. I'm really glad that we've got to the truth of things. Now let's move on. No, I'm afraid people are going to be really upset with what they find out and the truth that comes forward. And the reason it comes forward is because of Pluto in Capricorn. Now, I'm going to read more about this. I have the Forever Consciousness blog, nylon.com. There's a couple, if you look them up yourself, you'll find some things. And some things are written a long time ago. And, because it was at the start of this whole Pluto returning energy. And I also want to explain for the Australians what information there is for you and why certain things happened on dates that they have happened. And I'll get into that a little bit as well. So bear with me as we get through all of the information. And if you don't know by now, my name's BDevine. I am not an astrologer by far. I just found this extremely fascinating to start putting all of the pieces together of when certain things happened that were very huge for our world and what was going on at that time with the planets. And then discovering about Pluto returning into the natal chart of the USA, which is set up for the 4th of July, 1776. So this is our first Pluto return. In other words, the last time that it was here was right on the day of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, right on that very day in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And what was going on back then, here it comes returned again. So whatever values the Americans had back then, whatever they were trying to give to the people, what vision they had. I mean, whatever vision you have at that time is obviously different as time goes, right? But still, the principles of the Constitution and the principles of the Declaration of the Independence. What they were trying to achieve was freedom for all and a separation from dictatorship of other, well, the crown, and and who wants to? There's still some countries that are under the crown right now. Why is that the case? Why doesn't any other country fight for their independence, or will they, because of this vibration that's coming with Capricorn? So let me explain, because it's so interesting, right? Let me explain a little bit about this, and I hope that you'll find it interesting. I don't really take very long to sit down and research this. I just start talking to you and it all starts to flow. But I mean, once you get into this rabbit hole of astrology and looking at your own, where Pluto is for you and where it was when you were born, that's really interesting as to what your ideals are now, right? So 1971 to 1983, I think it is, 82, 83, Pluto was in Libra. So the types of so I'm born in 75, right? So I come from the era of the 70s where parents were getting divorced, things were getting different, things were changing. This wasn't happening in the 50s as much, 60s, etc. People stayed with their partners, right? For the most part, not in every case, of course. So the Libra energy is all about harmony. And here's discord where there should be harmony. So you have a reflection, if you're born at that time, of making sure that there's balance. You may even have had children before you got married, to fight, not go down the same road your parents went down, etc. Right? So there's a belief in justice. It's very strongly built with us from the 70s through to the beginning of the 80s, that this was just something that's part of our nature, is to help change the world, etc. as well, to be there, to bring harmony and peace. So if you look at Pluto in your chart, just look it up online. Where was Pluto when I was born? You'll come up with some kind of calculator, put it all in, and it will tell you, and hopefully tell you a little bit about what that means. Okay, so let's have a look at the Lord of the Underworld, which is Pluto. The Underworld is a dark place, the fount of human depravity, cruelty, torture, murder, greed, evil, and violence. Its power is intense, and relentless. The planet named for this dark entity travels the zodiac in a slow elliptical orbit of about 248 years, spending anywhere between 13 to 30 years in each sign of the zodiac, right? So that's why you have these long stretches where things are happening. And this is why Capricorn started in 2008, Pluto in Capricorn, 2008. What were you doing then? Reached a pivotal point in 2017. What were you doing then? 2020, 2021, and 2022, and it will continue till 2024. So we need to be aware of this and what it means. And also, if you're ascending and you're working on your spiritual progress, you need to be aware without getting too annoyed about everything as well, or freaked out, or what are we going to do now? Panic, because that will only see more of the same around you. All right, it's about coming together, not letting anyone beat us down. Come together just with a focal point or a focus point of coming into higher awareness now. We're aware of things. Forewarned is forearmed. You're aware of things, you can adjust to that schedule, and you can also manifest things in a different way. Okay, so on the 26th of January 2008, Pluto left Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius was all about travel and fun and, activities. And, people were having a pretty good time in the 90s, up until 2008. For the most part, okay? So this is an epic time. So it leaves Sagittarius, it crosses this threshold, moving into Capricorn. Now, this is an epic time that portends dramatic upheaval, okay? While Pluto has been moving through the freedom-loving and spiritual sign of Sagittarius, where people are getting their act together and people are starting to meditate more and people are starting to, travel the world, set up businesses. People are starting on the internet age and starting to get there. I started my website in 2009. A big, massive change happened for me at the end of 2007, going into 2008. So as you look back on it, you can go, oh my God, there were so many things that were going on, right? So we've seen these dark forces given wide scope and free reign. So while Sagittarius was there, so Pluto's sitting in Sagittarius, and while it's there, people are getting away with stuff because we're too busy having fun. We're too busy going off and exploring. I was doing a lot of traveling. I was doing just a lot of different things all the time and having fun with it, right? You don't think that your whole life is going to be completely flipped on its butt, right? As you're moving ahead. So here we go. Everything's la-di-da. Everything's doing great. And the dark forces, okay, so there's people that are above all the world leaders. Well, it's not really people, it's an energy, it's a force. There are connected to, so the darkest people that as in energy, or whoever you think that is, believe me, there's others that are above that, okay? So while this was happening, we've witnessed widespread terrorism, the war waged against it, a war without borders. Torture's become an accepted practice. People have been imprisoned without trial, in unfairness, the police force, who's supposed to take care of us, what they're doing in Australia right now, disgusting. They should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing. Is actually implementing a dictatorship, a tyrannical, evil dictatorship and takeover. Why are they doing that? This will be revealed. So we've also seen an upsurge in fundamentalist religions. God, it seems, is always on our side, and it's always other people, never ourselves, who are the evildoers. So the Pluto Capricorn will also force you to look at your own shadow self. Look at the stuff that you've done that's dirty and dark. Look at the thoughts that you've had. For me, it's just getting annoyed every now and then at certain people, right? I mean, if I have to admit that, I'll just admit that right out. But there are some that actually portray themselves in the public eye in a very different way than what they are doing behind the scenes. And you only have to think about, let's say, Hollywood, for example. If you're a child and you are in films as a child, then pretty much 90% of them are going to be abused in some way. And it's just not said. No one says anything. And people that do say things and do try to speak up get silenced very, very quickly. Why do you think that happens? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is truth. And this is reflected in the planets as well. Okay, so we'll just keep going. So Pluto's power as expressed through Capricorn is likely to be far more contained and focused. Saturn, which is Capricorn's ruler, is the Lord of time. Now we're going to get into a little bit of Saturn as well. Alarm bells are sounding. We're starting to wake up. Time is ticking by more loudly. Perhaps we should pause for a moment to consider our own personal role in all the evils of the world? How do our actions contribute to greed, violence, intolerance, and the destruction of our planet? Carelessness, thoughtlessness, everybody against each other, everybody having something to say about somebody else, everybody judging everybody else's looks, attire, when I was at school, it was all about how much money you had, you know. Obviously that wasn't going to do very well for me. Right? So it was like you were just mercilessly, bullied if you didn't, either you weren't attractive enough, or you didn't have, the right physical attributes or something. And if your family were, struggling, you're just outcast. Now, I grew up in Australia, so that it was there. So it's not perfect little Australia either. There's been some stuff that have happened there that's very dark over the years. And unfortunately, as a child, I happened to be a part of something that my parents were a part of and threw me into as a young child. I don't want to talk about it. But I'm just saying that corruption is everywhere. And those of you out there who have been in a position where you've been abused as a child, in some way, whatever way, it was because the people knew that you were the sort of person that would never, or at least not right away, you would never go and report this, because you're so emotional and you're so caring that you would go within and blame yourself somehow. So people who are predators will pick on people who are empaths, sensitives, and people who they know are so decent that they would rather sacrifice themselves than others. Now, this has happened a lot, right, to a lot of people. And it was happening over the years after the Pluto conjunction, and then in the 80s when it started to move into the next planet, then into the 90s, and then here we go. So, like it or not, we are on the threshold of a tremendous transformation, a huge reality check. We, civilized humans, have greedily fed upon the resources of our earth, and in the process have laid waste to it. One thing about 2020 and all the nonsense that happened was at least the planet got to breathe. At least there wasn't so many planes in the sky and cars out on the streets. And at least it was shocking for all of us when it first, sort of happened. But at least there was some kind of breath for the earth. So now we must take stock, reform or perish. It's not only big business and governments that heed Pluto's message. Now we must face up to our own situations. That there's plenty of people that are working on themselves, working on anger issues, working on PTSD, working on traumas of the past, and working on themselves, okay? It doesn't mean you have to be perfect in this process, but just more that you're admitting things about yourself, or where you went wrong, or why you went wrong, and are working on improvements. It's people that are in denial. It's people that blame others for their problems all of the time. It's people that, well, this just happened to me because of this in my life. It's people that are not accountable for their actions. And if that means leaders as well, that's happening. We're seeing it, getting away with things, telling us, are they lying to us? Do you think? Because if they are, and this goes down, do you know what this will cause? Okay. There are people that are going to be strong. Okay. That we're already anchoring ourselves, moving forward, ascending. Okay. We're already doing this work, but there are some that aren't in that phase. So they're going to just be so upset. Loss of livelihood, loss of family members, loss of friends, fighting on social media. people committing suicide, people taking experiments and dying, like my dad, like people that I know in Sydney, in Australia. Me, I got sick from someone who had the vax. She just came near me for a couple of minutes and that was it. So, you know, there's people that are just in fear and doing whatever they can. Okay, I just want this to stop now, and I'll just do whatever you say. Now, where in history have we seen that before? And how well did that turn out? Okay, so these are the things. And I don't care where, you know, I'm on the side of humanity and people being responsible for their actions. No matter who's your favorite president, prime minister, if they're doing bad things to kids, if they're doing bad things to us, if they're not telling us the truth, if they're not completely transparent, I don't care who they are, they need to be held accountable for it. And these people that walk around, oh, well, you just do as you're told, okay, and it will all stop. That is weak. We all need to be really strong right now, seeing things for what they are. All right, so here we go. So the traffic signals have changed to red, giving us a moment to think. That's what was going on. At this crossroad, it's time to stop playing the broken record, calling the blame game. How do our own individual actions or inactions contribute to the problems on the planet? We all know what they are. Do we flush forest down the toilet? I mean, we saw how important toilet paper was, didn't we? How do our choices at the supermarket contribute to the enslavement of others? Do you buy local brands? Do you buy raw foods and vegetables? Do you try to keep things organic? Are you trying to look after yourself on an inner level? Right? There's so much pesticides, there's so much chemicals and everything. You know, you've got to be careful of what you're ingesting. Your brain's not going to be able to function during all this stuff. We are wasting things that are in packages. You know, we know all of this. We know how much rubbish is thrown out the shopping centres. If you go into the rubbish bins at the shopping centres, outside, big boxes of stuff they're just throwing out instead of donating them to charities and things or whatever. You know, there's just wastage everywhere. So if the mountains are the realm of Saturn and Capricorn, solstice point. It's between Pluto's underworld and Saturn's peaks that humanity resides. Right, we're right in the center, in the valley. It is here our earthly material reality in the halls of civilization within the strata of government and business where Pluto's power will unfurl. It's got no choice. It's coming, it's here, we're in it, but we're going to see the more of the force of it in conjunctions next year. The start of Capricorn is the solstice point, where each year the sun reaches its most southerly aspect before heading north once more. In the southern hemisphere, this is the summer's longest day, and in the northern hemisphere, the winter's shortest day. Traditionally, Capricorn is associated with the winter solstice, a barren time of darkness. And Pluto's passage through Capricorn is a low point in the natural cycle, a time for withdrawal, inward focus, and hibernization. So coming a year or so after Pluto's downgrade from planetary status, this cycle portends the intensification of the extremes of heat and cold that we normally encounter at this time of the solstice. As climate change bites down hard, Pluto reminds us just how powerful he really is, regardless of what we may think about his rank in the planetary hierarchy. Because remember, it's supposed to be like a dwarf planet. So this process is likely to be felt within our centers of government and most powerful institutions. So which monoliths of today will be destroyed or transformed? We may be dealt some harsh realities, in particular the fact that Earth's resources are rapidly being depleted. Can't just keep doing whatever we want and thinking that there is no repercussions of that, right? So people are going to start to eat differently, to think clearer, to plant for themselves, to become more self-sufficient and not relying on supermarkets, etc., to give you everything, because there may be a change in all the way that all of that is done. There may be a change in trade. Certain countries just say no. Certain countries will be exposed for their own wrongdoings, and no one's going to want to trade with them. Okay, so there can be changes. You're going to have to learn to really be self-sufficient a little more as well. So this powerful energy may also be released in the form of earth changes, such as volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. That's going to happen. Tectonic plates shifting, changes under the sea level as well. So Carl Jung was of the view that destructive shadow material erupts when our unconscious is not honored. When we just keep pushing it away how we feel and it's not honored, not given room to function, or is suppressed. How many times have you been told to shut up? That your opinion doesn't really matter? How many times have you bitten your tongue when everybody's just going on about all their craziness and drama and stress, and you've just held it together, not said anything, and it's driving you crazy, right? We have to be able to have an outlet for all of that as well. So when we're constantly on the go, conscious mind is crammed full of processing day-to-day activity. There is a subsequent ignorance of inner life and imbalance results. Jung felt that this accumulated shadow material erupts in destructive events such as war or genocide. Sustained ignorance of one's inner life, a lack of introspection and self-awareness, could therefore conceivably fuel dark episodes and even spawn massive disasters that arrive direct from nature. Nature fights back. But as more and more people take personal responsibility for changing their own lives, honoring the subconscious or the unconscious, and doing what they can to change the aspects of our world that are crying out for reform, we may well mitigate some of the looming hardships that now seem inevitable. Okay, people are coming together in disasters. It always happens. When I've talked to many people throughout my journey of being, a spiritual guide. I've been doing this since I was 15. So I've been doing this over 30 years now. I started doing more counseling with others in the year 2000. And now we're we're at 2021, so 21 years ago. And I noticed that healing, working on healing, certain people hear those words and they're like, I don't want to know any about that woo-woo stuff. Don't talk to me about the angels. So I learned a way in which I could just talk every day to everyday people and still get the same message across. And it was about honoring yourself, understanding why you've reacted in the way that you've reacted has been driven or beaten into you as a child. And being a child, going through your own traumas has led you to reactions to others and situations. It's led you to sensitivities about others, yourself, and situations. It's led you to mistrust of others, yourself, and situations. And a reasoning within yourself that you've tried and nothing works. When really, what you might have done is tried to be positive for a little while. That doesn't address your trauma. That just makes you have to do something, that you have to do something else. Making you do something you don't want to do, basically. So there's a resistance there. And people go through all these things, and they don't understand that once you understand the emotion behind everything that you do, the reason why you've reacted the way you have reacted, the reason why similar circumstances has come into your life, the reason why you've had struggles where others have not. And instead of saying it must be something that I'm doing, that you're understanding that it's an experience that you've asked for, that it's something that you need to react differently to, only then can you start to really change what's going on in the subconscious and in your conscious life. When you actually do the work, the dark work, the ugly work, the stressful work, and you also look at yourself in a new way, then you become in a healed reality and your life begins to change. And the energy of Pluto causes us once again to see, is there anything else we're missing here? Is there stuff that we've been doing that is a little bit dark? Is there name calling going on? Is there racism still happening? Is there, people who are being treated unfairly in any way still? How do we feel about it? Do we care? All of the feelings that we have are going to be explored with Pluto. And I'm not here I don't care what anybody thinks or feels, it's your journey. I'm just here to help you along the way, right? But if you go into this Pluto energy with anger, I can tell you that it may be one of the hardest points in your life, and stressful and scary and fearful. But if you go into it like knowing that from now, because November itself, I'm doing this in November, right? 2021. This month in itself is going to kick off a series of events as well. All right, because it's eclipse month as well. And it's just going to be boom, revelation after revelation. And wow, okay. So as more people take personal responsibility for changing their lives, honoring the subconscious and doing what they can to change the aspects of a world that are crying out for reform, we may mitigate some of the looming hardships that seem inevitable. And although Pluto is associated with a host of dark images and themes, through its action comes a spiritual richness, an acknowledgement of our vulnerability and common humanity. So death and suffering brings people together. Think about it. Although an encounter with Pluto often means, that we must confront painful and fated events, ultimately, where there is destruction, there is rebirth and renewal. Are we going to have it the same as before? Sorry, but we won't. Do we really want it how it was before, with everything was kept under the surface and it appeared on the surface that everything was great, travel, fun, adventure, woohoo! But underneath the surface, the dark powers were gaining a lot of momentum because, believe me, they know about the astrological and planetary events. They know. They know how quickly they've got to move. And that's why you're seeing them all imposing more and more and more and more and more restrictions to people, because sadly in Australia, only some people are doing things. There's a lot of protests and things that are going on, but not enough, and not long enough, I guess, is the thing. So not long enough to make the change. People get sick of it. They think nothing's happening. Might as well just do as I'm told. And that's what sort of stops this, things from happening. However, when this happens in the US in February 2022, the big, point where Capricorn and Pluto are just perfectly aligned exactly how they were on that day, 4th of July, 1776. You don't think that something's going to happen? There will be. And then for the next couple of years, we'll be trying to work it all out and understand a different way of doing things. There could be war, there could be destruction, because people are going to try everything that they can to take over, right? To be boss. And what happened last time? Someone wanted to be boss of this world. I think people are forgetting that. Anyway, so Pluto in Capricorn, I'm going to go through some of the different ages that this, brought about and what was going on then as well. Also sort of wanting to okay, just one moment. Okay, so when there was things that were happening, just wait 1 second. So the birth of the nation for Australia, there's sort of like two. 26th of January 1788, of course. The British colonisation, the founding of Australia by Captain Arthur Phillip. And then we have, so I'll just quickly read a little bit about that. So with the loss of its American colonies in 1783, the British government sent a fleet of ships, the First Fleet, under the command of Captain Arthur Phillip, to establish a new penal colony in New South Wales on 26th of January 1788. The First Fleet weighed anchor and sailed to Port Jackson. The site selected for the anchorage had deep water close to the shore, was sheltered and had a small stream flowing into it. Phillip named it Sydney Cove, after Lord Sydney, the British Home Secretary. British flag was planted and formal possession taken. The First Fleet was a group of 11 ships that left Great Britain on the 13th of May 1787 to found the penal colony that became the first European settlement in Australia. And the fleet consisted of 2 Royal Navy vessels, 3 store ships and 6 convict transports, carrying more than 1,000 convicts, marines and seamen, and a vast quantity of stores. So from England, the fleet sailed southwest to Rio de Janeiro, then east to Cape Town, and via the Great Southern Ocean to Botany Bay, arriving in mid-January 1788, taking 250 to 252 days from departure. Imagine 252 days on a ship. The date of 26th of January is known as Australia Day, marking the beginning of the first settlements. And Pluto was in the Aquarius cycle. And it's there from 1788. And then you've got the nation of Australia, the Commonwealth of Australia, on 1901, and the inauguration was on that same time. So this cycle, the celestial Pluto Aquarius cycle, so 245-year period in which Pluto moves slowly from 15 degrees Aquarius through the signs and back to the same middle degree of the fixed air sign. And it last reached this degree for Australia in 1788, 1 year before the French Revolution. And this chart, thus located in Paris, is calculated for the last time that Pluto went stationary direct Aquarius without returning to this degree until 2033. So basically, Australia won't have their own birth chart, natal chart, Pluto return, until 2033. And so you see that there will be, changes with regards to that as well. So, so you've got a lot of different conjunctions that happened when certain people were born, like Napoleon, born the 15th of August, 1769. Okay. Lord Byron, 1788. Carlos of Spain, Count of Molina, 1788. The celestial Jupiter-Uranus connection, this is what this was under. And then the celestial Uranus Aquarius from 1916. Then Danton Georges, born October 1759. I can't pronounce that. Storming of Bastille was 1789. Louis the 16th, King of France, August 23rd, 1754, was born. Marie Antoinette was born on the 2nd of November, 1755. The nation, Australia, the British colonisation, 26th of January, 1788. Robert Peel, born the 5th of February, 1788. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I can't say that too well, born the 28th of June, so a lot of these in France as well. Also, so you've got tons of people, historic figures, battles, notable extremes, the birth of a state or a country like Australia, and in some things, political conquests as well. So you've got these happened when Pluto's around. In this case, it's in Aquarius for Australia. And so for 2033, we'll have to see what happens. Will Australia go through another renewal, a new country, etc. energy? So here we go. Okay. I don't want to go too much into that one because we'll be here for a long time. Okay, so worldwide purging and accountability. Saturn and Pluto are around from 2019 to 2022. Those two together do create a little bit of a storm. So when we looked on 18th of December 2018 in Manila, and then on January the 12th, 2020, Saturn and Pluto conjoin at 22 degrees in Capricorn. And that's what was going on. Bracing ourselves for potentially destructive and transformative period, beginning 2019, the C19, until 2 years following that conjunction. So till 2021, right? We're in November 2021 right now. Things are going to start kicking off this month and into December as well. The world is never going to be the same again. And we really don't want it to be the same again because we were getting a lot of falsehoods. We were being completely, because we were so busy having so much fun with the internet and traveling and, adventure. We were having so much fun doing all this stuff. And partying and, whatever. We didn't see what was going on under the iceberg. Okay. So Saturn in Capricorn is all about accountability, challenges us to be good custodians of massive resources through the societal structures that we create. We don't like how something is done, we're going to tear it down. Pluto ushers in a powerful rite of passage or transition on both the individual and global level. All rites of passage have 3 phases. Phase 1, a purging or separation of the former self. For example, cutting your hair before joining the army to signify separation from civilian life, right? What happens when there's a breakup or something? You go get new clothes and you go start, taking care of yourself because you couldn't before. So phase 1 is the separation of the former self. Phase 2 is a threshold of period between the old and the new. So there's a bit of uncertainty here. Well, the fun's over now. What are we going to do? Phase 3 is the completion or the assumption of the new identity. So you just basically own it. Okay. So what happened in the past? Don't we just love this? Are you enjoying these? Please, give me a thumbs up or tell me, and I can make any kind of videos you guys like. I'm interested in it. So away we go. Okay. I'm teaching as well this afternoon. Here I am, still recording. October 1914. What happened when Saturn and Pluto were together in Cancer? World War I. In 1947, when Saturn and Pluto were in Leo, what happened? It was the end of World War II. Germany and Japan lost military dominance. The beginning of the worldwide recession, sadly. Start of the Cold War. The US National Security Act facilitated a major restructuring of the United States military with the creation of the Department of Defense, the National Security Council, and the CIA. November 1982, Saturn, Pluto in Libra. So Pluto was still in Libra in 1982. Okay, so this brought economic stagnation and Iran-Iraq war. Times Man of the Year was the computer. January 2020, we go into the Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn. Here we go. Serious conflicts and evil global war which affect the distribution of power among nations. New global superpowers could emerge from the ashes, or there could be none at all. Humanity could decide to eradicate even the notion of superpower and redefine the basis for power. Expect a purging of sorts, including volcanic eruptions, followed by frequent seismic activity. It's all fires, it's all kinds of things going on, fires and floods and everything. Together, Saturn and Pluto will teach us to proper use of power and to take full responsibility for its misuse. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Good old Jimi Hendrix. So post 2020, the next Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Pisces will happen. So that's a while away. 2053. All right, so we'll see if we're still around then. Okay, so that was this one thing. So, okay, just one moment. There we go. We move into the history a little bit. I know we're still going. I don't know what time it is, whatever. 1:30, okay, I've got an eye on the time. I'm just going to move a little bit of history in, I may have talked a little bit about it before, but here's some more. And this is Pluto in Capricorn. Remember, that's what we're focused on for 2022 because of it being back in its natal chart for the first time in the US since the first time it happened, all right, 1776. But the history around the world, you know, some have had several Pluto returns. Now, the Dark Ages happened in 532 to 551. And with examination of the tree rings from across the world, along with ice core samples from the Arctic and Antarctic regions, it shows that our planet experienced an extremely cold period that began around 535 CE, which lasted perhaps 20 years or more. This period was called the Dark Ages because of the collapse of culture that took place at the time. But recent research also reveals that it was literally dark, you know, for the sun had stopped shining. Crops failed, famine and plague spread. The population of the planet would have had no idea what was happening, nor would people have known if the climate would return to normal. So superstition flourished, empires fell, barbarian hordes swept cultures, civilizations aside. This was the time of the Celtic legend of Arthur, a story set against the backdrop of a wasteland. In order to restore the land and king, Arthur's knights searched for the Holy Grail. Such is the mythic power of this tale that it continues to fascinate us to this day. So there was very little recorded history from this time. There was a book called Catastrophe, and David Keyes spent many years searching for the cause and effects of this disastrous change. Okay, so Keyes asserts that the most likely cause of the Dark Ages was an enormous eruption of Krakatoa that blocked the sun's rays, resulting in a mini ice age. This eruption, which is thought was so powerful that it split one landmass into two, creating the islands of Java and Sumatra, how cool is that, had immense social and political consequences across the globe. So Pluto entered Capricorn in February 532 CE, symbolizing the destructive volcanic forces that were literally released from the underworld as Krakatoa exploded. It is interesting to note that Neptune was then located in Aquarius as it is to today. Now we are again facing the potential for these global climatic catastrophes. We've seen what happens, and it transforms civilizations. We're in it. We're done with it now, but we're in it again, right? Okay. Then in 778 to 796, we had Charlemagne, which we had the political balance of Europe was restructured. At this time, when Charlemagne, leader of the Franks, which was France and Germany, because they were once the same, rose to power, he conquered many tribal cultures across Europe and converted people to Christianity. In 1800, he became the first ruler to unite Western Europe both religiously and politically. Since the fall of the Roman Empire in the Dark Ages, Charlemagne founded the Holy Roman Empire, which would last 1,000 years, although its power was reduced during the 16th century Reformation, where Pluto was also in Capricorn. Woo! Now perhaps a new kind of empire or powerful leader will emerge, one that will alter the course of history. 1024 to 1041, Norse culture spread at this time. This was largely due to a period of global warming. The Vikings, who'd been raiding Ireland and England in 778 and 796 period, now settled in Greenland. Population of Europe also grew. With a warmer climate came an increase in trade, leading to more prosperity. So the Vikings were known for their incredible fighting spirits. They did not fear death, for after death they believed that the bravest heroes went to Valhalla, where they again would do battle with courage. Right? Endowed with supernatural strength, Thor was the Norse god of thunder. Mountains would crumble as he approached. 2 goats drew his chariot across the sky. When hungry, Thor would eat his goats and afterwards use the bones to restore them back to life with his hammer, which was imbued with both creative and destructive power. Okay. He fought against many giants and eventually slew the great serpent, only to drown in the serpent's venom. These symbols and themes, goats, Capricorn, mountains, Capricorn, serpents, rebirth, creation, and destruction, are all associated with Pluto and with Capricorn. We will remain stuck between Saturn's rock and Pluto's hard place? No. We will find within ourselves some of Thor's strength and courage? I hope so. So, as much as I say that, there are so many people who I thought would have been on board and are totally lost in it all. People who started off on a strong foothold and then gave into it all when it became too much. People who do nothing but complain and stuff. And I thought a lot of those people were different, I guess. So a lot of people's true colors coming out through this whole thing. Okay, so then we had the history of banking, which was 1024. Paper currency came out. Goldsmiths began keeping other people's gold and silver in their vaults, so giving their clients a receipt in return. So the paper receipts were traded and used as currency. So this is when banking kind of began. 12, and that was at 1024. 1269 to 1287, invading the Mongols conquered China and founded the Yuan dynasty in 1279 under Kublai Khan. In 1275, Marco Polo set off on his trip to China, establishing new trade routes between East and the West. Today, China is growing as its world power. We know this. Their economy is booming, apparently. and this was written a while ago. So they're in the most populated nation on earth, just as in the rest of the world, there is a widening gulf between rich and poor. Human rights continue to be an issue. In the coming cycle, will the global balance of power continue to shift from west to east? And what are the implications of that? What if China is the superpower of the world? And we all have to listen to, and be under that rule. We will witness events that curb the spiraling population on the earth. That's happening. Meanwhile, in Europe, power struggles with the Holy Roman Empire led to the establishment of the Habsburg dynasty. The powerful dynasty ruled until 1918, reaching its peak under Charles V during the next cycle of Pluto in Capricorn. All these major events happen. 1516 to 1533, Empires and Conquest. The cycle of Pluto and Capricorn was one of the most pivotal periods in the course of human history. Lured by gold, Spanish invaders under the leadership of Cortez destroyed the Aztec Empire. A few years later, in 1532, the Spanish commander Pizarro overran the Inca Empire. It's no ordinary feat. Spain also began their conquest of the Mayans at this time. The Spanish stole vast quantities of gold from the Americas, which helped establish Spain as one of the most powerful of all empires. The Ottoman Empire also reached the zenith of its power under Suleiman I. He was among a number of prominent leaders to emerge in this era, including Charles V, King of Spain, and Holy Emperor, Francis I of France, and King Henry VIII of England, 1509 to 1547. The Reformation in the 16th century of the Catholic Church was the most powerful of all institutions, whose leaders were often corrupt. Throughout the entire transit of Pluto and Capricorn in 1517 to 1533, history was to witness the collapse of the authority of Rome. That is pretty huge. I mean, if you think about it. The Medici family, wealthy patrons of the arts, who commissioned many masterpieces by Michelangelo, lusted for power. Several members of the Medici family held powerful positions, including that of Pope, but greed was to be their undoing. Martin Luther set the Reformation in motion when in 1517 he challenged the authority of the Catholic Church by nailing his 95 complaints to a church door in Wittenberg in Germany. Pope Leo X's extravagance was quickly emptying the Vatican's coffers, because he regularly held 65 course banquets, just spending. As a result of dwindling funds, and the inability to raise money for the refurbishment of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Pope Leo X introduced a scheme of selling indulgences to remit sins. This was the final outrage that led to Martin Luther's thesis of complaint, which in turn sparked a political and religious revolution, the Reformation. Pope Leo X and his cousin Pope Clement VII enraged the people to such an extent that by 1527, Rome would be overrun by invading Germans who sacked Rome. There it goes. When Pope Clement VII fled, he melted down all the gold artifacts and took as much as he could with him. His last commission to Michelangelo was to become the artist's last judgment, a rather symbolic representation of the mood of the times. Pope Clement died in 1534, marking the end of an era. So during the 1517 to 1534 period, the English Reformation saw Henry VIII establish the Church of England, breaking with Rome in order to marry Anne Boleyn, one of his wives. So from 1517 to 1521, Neptune was once again located in Aquarius. And of course, Anne Boleyn was the mother of Elizabeth I. So Neptune was once again located in Aquarius. Will we soon witness another kind of reformation that roots out corruption and fundamentally alters some of the world's most powerful institution? Absolutely yes. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It all has to be brought to its knees. We're sick and tired of it. We've been, they've been dangling the carrot for too long. These people are so corrupt, so evil, stashing money, hoarding it for themselves, telling us all lies, wanting to keep the elite together, wanting to keep just a certain class of individuals, pretending to everybody else that they want freedom and they want justice for everybody, and they want everybody to have racial equality, when they're just doing the complete opposite behind closed doors. No, we will not have it. There's too many of us. Okay. So in 1762 to 1778, the colonial era, the last time Pluto was moving through Capricorn spanned the years 1762 to 1778. So remember that in 1776, 2 years before the end of Pluto in Capricorn, was when things started to happen, right? Declaration of Independence was written, done, right? And that's what's going on next year at the same time. So the French king and, Declaration of Independence. So in France, Marie Antoinette married Louis the 16th in 1770. So coming to the throne in 1774, the French king and queen were highly unpopular because of their extravagance and lack of skill in managing the French economy. The stark divisions between rich and poor would lead to the French Revolution. They weren't putting up with it, right? Meanwhile, European colonial power reached new heights. Britain took control of India by means of the East India Company and marched into Canada 1763. The French seized much of the Polynesia, and Captain Cook's arrival in Australia would lead to the destruction of another indigenous population by invading Europeans. Though slavery was outlawed in Britain in 1772, the African slave trade increased dramatically in this era, particularly throughout the southern states of the United States, and Africa was relentlessly plundered as white people projected their own unseen dark side onto the so-named dark continent. And then the Industrial Revolution. So in the same year that the world witnessed a rare transit of Venus within a few hours of a solar eclipse in 1769, James Watt's new steam engine escalated the pace of the Industrial Revolution. The burning of the coal began on a massive scale. Now we are set for a new kind of industrial revolution as obsolete and environmentally damaging technologies are overhauled and replaced by new systems that are sustainable. And if they'd listened to Nikola Tesla, then we'd all have free energy for the longest time now, but nobody wanted to. So there's no money in that. There's no money in healing. There's no money in change. So, but there will be, okay? So there will be change, and there will be freedoms for the people that are coming back. So with the Industrial Revolution came massive growth in business and banking. Important developments in the business world included the first building society in 1775 and in 1773, London's first dedicated stock exchange. Okay. Now we go to 2008 to 2024. So Pluto arrives in Capricorn in 2008, reaches a peak in 2022, and until 2024. So apart from environmental degradation, climate change, a number of other pressing issues, in many countries, including Australia, the aging population is predicted to cause problems. Low birth rates combined with longevity have led to a demographic shift of enormous proportions that is set to bite the hip pockets as baby boomers, Pluto in the Leo generation, began to retire from the workforce. So in 2004, economists predicted that in Australia alone, the shortfall in tax will be somewhere in the order of $2.2 billion by the middle of the 21st century. While people in the third world are starving, corporate executives reap millions in salary packages and payouts Pluto in Capricorn makes signal a financial revolution that redresses the imbalance as well. So a lot of people have asked me, what about Australia? You're just going to have to hang in there and see what happens here, because your prime minister is, it's just not good, okay? And these people aren't doing their jobs anymore. There's always something. There's always some kind of corrupt, energy behind it. So anyone's involved in anything, let's say they're taking money, let's say they're getting rich somewhere, they're taking millions somewhere, or they're somehow able to buy properties when they only make a small, if they make a $500,000 a year salary or whatever, but how come they're able to have millions and millions and millions of dollars in their portfolio from what? From where? How? You know what I mean? So those questions are going to be asked. Where's the money come from? Where's the money gone that was here, and why do you have all of this over here? It doesn't matter who you are in politics, doesn't matter who you are in government, higher education, institutions, where all the grants are given to certain hospitals, where people are not being told the truth about how much money certain hospitals make from certain people being ill with a certain virus that came out. And whatever treatment they give them, there's other treatments and more money. It's all there. You can find all the documents. I'm not going to go through it right now, but those things are not going to be able to be pushed aside anymore. So in 2023 to 24, Pluto will return to the location it occupied when the US was founded. And this is likely to be a critical time, especially for the economy. But it will be more that we're going to see the start of things happen November, because of the eclipses and things that are going on here, and different planetary stuff that's already taking place November, December, January. Be prepared for the truth to start coming forward. More and more and more people are quitting jobs, okay? Labor sort of stopping, because people aren't going to be forced into doing something that they don't want to do, and they shouldn't have to do it either. We've fought too hard to have freedoms, and then we're just going to give it all away and say, oh, okay, I'll just go do that to keep everybody quiet. If you want to have something, if you want to take the jab, for example, then you're safe, aren't you? So just go ahead and do what you got to do, and good luck to you. Fantastic. Hopefully you haven't got a bad batch, I hope that it's all good for you. But let us do the same stuff. If we don't want to take an experiment which hasn't been through its trials, which has had multiple, oh my God, look at the VAERS report, okay, yourself. It is more than all vaccines since 1990 combined. It's already 100,000 or something more than people getting adverse reactions and dying than all combined from 1990, right? So all you have to do is look up on VAERS yourself, okay? But anyway, that if there's untruths with that, and people have just had to do it because it's their livelihood, or people do it because they want to, good for you guys. But a war on their own people, the government declaring a war on their own people, basically, what in the hell is that? No, it can't happen. It can't continue. It shouldn't be anyone's business what your medical treatments have been your whole life. And this shouldn't be any different as well. Again, to each their own. You guys do whatever you got to do for yourself and your life and your livelihood. And if there's a positive, energy with it, and there's positivity all around you and all that, then you're most likely going to have, positive vibration flowing through you, right? But then just go and do what you got to do. But forcing others because you've got it, well, you should be safe. So what is the question when there's all the illegal immigrants coming across the borders, etc., with the C-19, and they're given, our president wants to give them $450,000 each. What about his own people? Come legally. I had to. My son had to come over legally. It wasn't easy. Obviously I was a citizen, but I had to prove it with hardly any paperwork. I had to prove who I was. And then my son, who had less paperwork than I did, had to prove that he was who he said he was, with name changes and all kinds of stuff going on as well. And so if you want to come, but do it legally like everybody else has to, right? And our government shouldn't be giving people who are illegally crossing our border $450,000. And if you didn't know about that, go read about it. Okay? So that sort of thing, that is blatantly against its own country. It can't continue where there's no truth telling to us, where you have to find out information on places that aren't censored because everything's censored. So this technological energy, platforms, social media, corruption in the governments, all across the board, doesn't matter who you are, whatever's going on, it all needs to be, and maybe that's what takes a little time, is the dissolution of the old ways of doing things, because it's no longer upholding the correct principles for a free country. It's no longer looking after its own people, It's no longer putting our interests first, but instead other people's interests first, other countries' interests first, illegal immigrants' interests first. That I'm all for immigrants, but do it properly. That's it's not racist or anything like that. It's about just being fair to everybody. You can't be fair over here and then say, no, but that's not fair. We got to let them in. Yeah, legally. Okay? Not throwing kids over the wall and dropping them, and cartels and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, corporate greed, personal ambition, the elitists, supremacy, all that sort of stuff. Got to stop. So the earth changes, increased level of volcanic and seismic activity. We've seen this anomalies everywhere. Australia was burning in the beginning of 2020, and then it was flooding towards the end of 2020. Is it constructed? Is it constructed weather patterning? Is it? Well, you guys have seen, probably people in 10 years ago would be like, oh, don't be so ridiculous. That's rubbish. They can't control the weather. Yeah, they can. So now you're starting to see. 10 years ago, if we said, okay, you got to wear a mask and you'll be safe, but, everybody's got to wear one now. You'd be like, that's ridiculous. We're not doing that. It's so stupid. Less than 1% chance of contracting anything or even dying from it. No. We wouldn't do it. And yet it was conditioned in to do it as well. Anyway, whoever's who, for better or worse, whatever's going to take place, whoever is corrupt, whoever is evil, whoever has a tyrannical agenda, red, blue, purple, who cares? Whoever it is, it's not even going to be from the people per se. It'll be because of this energy of Pluto moving into Capricorn, into our birth chart, our natal chart for the USA, which changes everything. Yes, the changes began in 2008. 2017 was also pivotal. 2019 was pivotal. 2020, the world stopped. Momentum building. 2021 now in November, moving into eclipse seasons. Things are happening here that is with Mars as well, because Mars brings out the fire and the aggression in some ways. So when people hear, when they get the knowledge and they hear the information, what are they going to do if they've been believing that's just rubbish, that's a conspiracy theory, that will never happen? And then they start seeing more and more lockdowns and more things happening. They're like, well, hang on a minute, maybe there's something going on here. My rights are being stripped away. I can't even go to work. Now what am I going to do? Panic sets in. The fear gets to everybody. Psychologically, the abuse is there, the trigger points are there, all there. People are going to be angry when they believe or they start to see the media come forward, and they will, because they don't want to get in trouble themselves, and they're starting to reveal bit by bit by bit certain things now already. Certain big, media outlets are actually starting to report stuff. It's going to be more of it and more of it and more of it and more whistleblowers, and it's the only way to change everything. Aspects that certain people don't like will change. Something I don't like is going to change. Do we all want to live in peace? I think we do. I think we want to be left alone. I think we want to be able to live for our dreams and aspire to do more, be more. I think that's what we want. I think we want to be able to look after our health decisions. I don't think we should be scared into doing something that we don't want to do, forced into doing something we don't want to do. Coercion is not consent. You're forced into doing something. No, that's not me consenting. We shouldn't have to be living like this. And what's been giving me a lot of push lately is the reason why I'm doing these videos for you all is because I've been working in the thick of it, for the last 12, going on 13 years online. And the last 2 years has not been easy for me personally, let alone people with their own issues coming in great waves of just grabbing and fear and stress and pain and loss and no money and struggling and pushing it all and bringing it forward to the surface. And what it's enabled me as a spiritual guide to be able to help you with through understanding is ways in which you can get out of all of that mindset. Because if we stay in anger and destruction, that's all we see. And as we're lifting ourselves into a new earth, this is what it's meant by the new world. This is what it's meant. It's about our physical, emotional, spiritual, mental bodies working towards rising above the tyranny and the nonsense, creating a focus for yourself and moving towards the future that you wish to see. And if you can do that, if you can say, I am not going to stand for tyranny in any way in my life, I want to help this land, this world, bring back freedom and joy and laughter and peace. And if you're saying that to yourself and you're working on yourself, remember we're healing, releasing all the time. If you're doing the work, your outcome is going to be so different from someone who stays in, this is happening and this is, poor me, whoa, life sucks, FML, all that sort of stuff. They're going to still struggle greatly. Sadly, if they come forward, they'd have a way out of it. But they're just going to keep going around in that circle because that's what their mind wants to see. They're grasping onto the old way as hard as they can, even if it's dirty and corrupt, instead of embracing a new self, which in turn brings in a new earth energy, in turn bringing balance and harmony, forward movement, and instant manifestations of the things that you love to see. Will we need money? Money probably won't even be a thing. There'll be other ways in which we are able to receive. Okay. And I will do more talks about this, but from a spiritual perspective, we've got to keep focused. You are all anchors if you're watching this. You're a light anchor somewhere around the globe. Do something with it. It's almost like the ultimate test, because it is like the dark night of the soul for all of us. Anchor yourself, ground yourself, do your work, get strong in yourself. Stop going, oh, everybody hates me, nobody loves me, and life sucks. Stop doing that if you don't want to see it. You know that you all have this power within you. You're all here at this time, and you're here for a reason. The reason is not to moan and complain, but to get out of that energy. Okay? Get out of the tyranny, get out of the darkness, be aware of it, but don't have it affect you, and focus. Okay, this is what I'm going to have a look at. This stuff, I'm going to have a look at astrologically the planets, what's going on, because those things have been there before I was, and it affected everything. So wow, there must be something in it. And you can start to look at these things. You don't even have to look at this. You can intuitively know that things have got to change. Work on your abilities, open them, and understand, hey, I've got to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I have to be. And that's my focus, and also my husband's. It's just, we have to be strong no matter what. No, it's not easy, but it's doable. You can do it. It's something you can do. Once you do, you won't go back. Okay, you won't go back. So choose life, choose focus, choose direction. I hope you enjoy learning in these videos. I appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for being here. Please watch part 1 if you haven't before, and I will do more if you like. Until the next time, much love and many blessings. Bye for now. Bye.